It's June 15th, 2017. I'm on the way back from an Alaskan road trip. I'm here in Vermillion, South Dakota, home of the National Music Museum. If you're not familiar with the geography of South Dakota, you're not alone. Vermillion is in the far southeast of the state and is the home of a campus of the University of South Dakota. The National Music Museum is part of this campus, and it's one of the coolest treasure troves of instruments anywhere in North America. My original intent in visiting the NMM, as I did in 2015, was to get an interview with one of their many employees, but my email went unresponded to because, and this is true, they don't email you back unless you pay them $100 a year. I'm not kidding, it's actually on their website. Fortunately for me and all of the plucky classical nerd fans the world over, they're very open and inviting when it comes to free advertising on social media, so I was still able to film inside without any concern. The museum started off as a private collection that was subsequently donated to the USD system. Since then, their collection has actually outgrown its relatively small building, which is a former library. They have the world's largest complete set of Javanese gamelan instruments outside of Indonesia itself, which is actually played by local community members in concerts, something in which I have some experience myself. But that's a video for another time. Many of the instruments in their collection are string instruments, which include all sorts of violins, violas, cellos, lutes, mandolins, and guitars. But mostly violins. This one isn't actually child-size. Well, it is, but it was used for higher passages because 1600s string players were a bunch of wussies who wouldn't move from first position. Of course, no legitimate string collection would be complete without a smattering of Stradivarius. He's primarily known for his violins, but he was a versatile luthier. Not to be outdone, this cello by Amati, known as the King, has a gorgeously painted back. Scattered throughout the museum are other string instrument samples that attempted to improve the quality of the violin, like these futuristic-looking samples from 1819. Yes, 1819. Or this, which looks like it's bigger up top because of an optical illusion. There's even an impressive collection of Scandinavian folk fiddles, with beautifully carved scrollwork, and some very, very pared-down instruments intended for use by dance instructors. Speaking of scrollwork, this is the ancestor of the modern 12-string guitar. Decorative work even made its way into so-called rosework, which was hand-carved into the sound holes of these early guitars. But for a pianist such as myself, the keyboard instruments have to take the cake. From this organ salvaged from a barn, to this box that's actually an organ from Poland. Well, okay, enough with the organs. This piano has 7 pedals, which added different effects to performance up to and including a small drum and cymbal for things such as Mozart's extremely overplayed Turkish March. Nearly all of their harpsichords have intricate paintings on the interior of their lids, because these instruments were intended for decorative purposes even after their musical worth had been overtaken by the piano. This piano actually has the original key action mechanism as designed by Bartolomeo Cristofori, the inventor of the instrument. This is a choralcello, originally a room full of once cutting-edge technology that could act as an extremely versatile home organ. Few were bought because of all the components required, and so the NMM has had to cobble bits and bobs together over the years. And this is a Yanko keyboard, which facilitated impossible chords and easy transpositions, but never caught on because it involved a complete transformation of everything keyboardists had learned for centuries. And, of course, no collection would be complete without a Hammond organ. There's even an entire room full of guitars. I mean, I like a good guitar as much as the next... Ooh, shiny! This here is a resonator guitar made by the Dobro company, and it's a style which never really caught on in the mainstream due to the electric guitar's emergence soon thereafter. Blues players have always liked them, though, They've got a wonderfully unique sound. The Dobro company even made some Hawaiian guitars. There's so much in the museum that there's even a bunch of instruments stuffed into the upper hallway. Mostly harmonicas, to be exact, but a few novelty items like weird accordions or even this organ. Here, every brass and woodwind instrument you'd care to name can be found, including saxophones made by Adolph Sax himself. They even have his personal seal on the inside of the bell. Speaking of saxophones, here's a very patriotic one. One instrument from this limited run was given to President Bill Clinton. I don't know what this thing is, but it freaks me out. This thing is called a jazzophone, and no, I don't know what its problem is. Nearby, there's this crystal flute, which apparently sounds really good, but they're too impractical to use. There's also this thing, a bombardon, which is now probably best known as an organ stop. For those of a brassier persuasion, there's a whole case devoted to torture devices. Early attempts at making fully chromatic bugles. These things look like they do something medieval to you, but I'm not keen to find out what. These eventually led to the development of pistons and valves and such, first on the cornet, but eventually to the rest of the brass family. And if you're looking for real one or two of a kind objects, the NMM has you covered. This is a barrel cello. My pet theory is that it's from an alternate dimension where MacGyver and Yo-Yo Ma are in some kind of Freaky Friday situation. I'm keeping this poster up here on the screen for a little bit longer because I spent way too much time making it. Speaking of weird cellos, this thing is a theremin cello. I don't know how it works, but I want to write a piece for it. They've even got the prop trumpet from Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and this wild X-shaped harp is one of two in the entire world. There's also just the straight-up unusual. This echo horn looks surprised to see me, and this instrument is called the Trumpet Marine, which is a one-string bowed harp that operates on the harmonic series and sounds exactly like a trumpet. Generally, they were played by nuns. There's also this rare lute, and for its purchase, the NMM outbid some of the biggest museums in the world at auction. And if you've ever broken a leg and still wanted to rock out, they've got this thing. Yes, that is a guitar crutch. There are glass bowls next to a Benjamin Franklin-style glass harmonica, an unholy fusion of harp and piano, an Arion harp zither custom-built in 1920s Missouri. And if recorders happen to be your thing, they've got a complete collection. There's some truly wicked-looking mandolins. There's a Polish shofar, and an entire room devoted to world music. Their gamelan usually resides here, hence the empty space. And hey, if you ever wanted to play the armadillo... Rounding off the NMM's truly remarkable collection includes an exhibit of the instruments present in Civil War-era bands. There's also proof that the sousaphone can be beautiful. This is a mere tasting of all the unique items in their collection, so if you ever find yourself in the greater Vermilion area, I definitely encourage you to stop by. Just don't expect them to respond to your emails.